Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen here. Today we are going to be taking a look at Too Many Bones, the dice building RPG. Just kidding, we're not going to look at this one. We are going to actually be looking at its little cousin, Too Many Bones, Undertow. So, the reason I wanted to look at the smaller game is for a couple. Well, there are a couple reasons, I should say. One of the biggest reasons here is going to be price tag. So if you know anything about Too Many Bones, first off, it is very difficult to find. They do not have retail copies of this anymore. So it's very difficult to find in retail stores. It is, as far as I know so far, only carried at chiptheorygames.com. Chip Theory Games being the people who produced this game, actually the people who designed the game too. So like I said, it's very difficult to find in store. You have to purchase it online, and Too Many Bones itself, the core set, so we're going to look at this guy right here. This guy costs $129, so about $130. And it is a massive box. If you ever watched the Shut Up Sit Down review, it is no lie this will not fit into a IKEA shelf. So if you're like me and you display your board games on IKEA shelves, this big monster of a game will not fit. Whereas Undertow will fit. And Undertow is not just an expansion to Too Many Bones, it is in fact a standalone expansion. So if you are afraid to dip your toes into what is Too Many Bones because of the price tag, this offers you the chance to play it at a lower price tag with less players. So this box itself can support up to 2 players, whereas the original core game supports up to 4. And the beauty of this game is that it isn't just a standalone, it is an expansion to the game. So if you wanted to mix it in with other content or mix other content into this game, you can. But like I said, it comes at a smaller price tag. This little box for Too Many Bones Undertow is only, I shouldn't say only, is an $80 investment as opposed to the $130 investment for the bigger box. Now you might be wondering, much like I was, why is this game so expensive? So to answer it in shorthand, this game is expensive because everything in here is plastic. Even the player mats are neoprene, and we'll go through the content and you'll see that. But literally everything in here is plastic. The chips are plastic, the dice are plastic, the cards themselves are plastic, and even the deck boxes that hold the cards are plastic. So could this game have cost less? Absolutely. If they had gone for a more cardboard setup, then, obviously, I don't know how they would do the chips. I guess they would do cardboard counters on punchboard as opposed to plastic chips. At that point, the only thing that you would be keeping as plastic would be your dice. Everything else, like the player mats, could be cardboard. The chips could be cardboard. The cards themselves could be cardboard. And more importantly, they don't necessarily need a deck box. You could easily just have a section of a insert in here that holds cards. But even if you did want to do tuck boxes for them, you could make those cardboard tuck boxes. And this would indeed cut the cost of this game exponentially. It would be an incredible way to save money. However, that's not what this game is about. This game is about really having that tactile feel to it. One of the greatest things about this game is that tactile feel. So we're going to take a look at what's inside the box. And you can see here that they did a great job of creating storage solutions for everything that we have here. So we have these little dice trays that are specifically capable of just holding the dice here. And you saw the one that I had earlier right here, which is the same thing. It just holds all of the dice. So we got a couple of those trays sitting in here, and we're going to go through those dice shortly. And then you're going to see these guys right here. These are the heft of the game. These little plastic chips are not light. These are extremely heavy. When you receive the box, you are going to be really surprised at how heavy these are. More importantly, they came with these little chip trays, and these chip trays are also hard plastic. So it's, again, this is another thing that is contributing to the cost of the game, but is just such a slick way to, you know, store all of this stuff. So see me not complaining, but for those of you who are a little shy of heart here, I can understand why people would avoid a game like this. Then again, we have our tuck boxes right here, and again, we'll go into the cards that are inside of here shortly, but you can see, let me see if I can get a better view of that. You can kind of see right here from the sides and the seams here, these are definitely plastic tuck boxes, and you can kind of see where they've been heat molded so that they can hold together. So you got plastic tuck boxes that were completely unnecessary, but just an interesting addition to this that you might not see with most other games. So then we have our character sheets here, and you can hear them. These are definitely plastic. These are just the same as everything else in this box. It is a whole bunch of plastic, and I can tell you that if the apocalypse ever happens, this game will definitely survive that. So you can see there's just all kinds of information in here, and we're going to go into some minor explanation here, but most of this is just a bunch of rules. And then the last thing that is in here that's just very over the top is these Neoprene mats. These are basically mousepad mats, and anybody who's done the reviews on this has said it before. They're just mousepad mats. They're neoprene mats with little cutout holes for where the dice go. And I mean, are they necessary? No. Could you do this with cardboard? Absolutely. Is it the coolest thing in the entire world? Yeah, it totally is. I mean, the amount of coolness factor for going through the trouble of all this is incredible, and unfortunately, it also bloats the cost incredibly. This one is a double-sided neoprene mat. So that's why we're looking at such a, like I said, the only thing besides the only thing in here that isn't plastic is the box and the rule book here, which I'm gonna attempt to free because I put all the heavy stuff on top of it. So we're gonna take a look inside this said rule book. This is the rule book for Too Many Bones Undertow, and let me just say straight up that this is not your typical rulebook. First off, you can see this is much thicker, just based off the droop. This would not be, if it was made of thinner material, it would have just simply curled down. So you can tell this is much thicker. When we go into the book, it is very thick pages. Okay, so this was just one page, and it just, if you felt it, it felt like it's definitely more than one. And it's just really beautifully illustrated. This shows you all the contents that are in here, shows you setup, and then just goes through the numerous amounts of rules. This game is actually deceptively simple to teach, but that is the deception right there. It is extremely complicated outside of understanding the engine that helps the game move forward. So it's very easy to teach how to play the basic turn setup, and even the combat in Too Many Bones. But every character plays very differently from each other. And so each one of them is kind of its own set of rules that you have to learn to play it. And we're going to look into that really quickly here after we get through the rule book. This is just some examples of play and so on and so forth. They go into Chips, the baddies, and exactly how they interact with the players and so on. Then we have our glossary in the back. Like I said, this thing is very thick. And the thickness... So, a lot of the time when you see a rule book like this, you could think the game is complicated, and to be honest with you, this one isn't hiding anything. This is definitely a more complicated game. It's not meant for the group of people that are getting together for, short games. Let's just put it that way. This is definitely a much more heavy game. So let's see. Where do we want to start? Let's talk about these player mats and explain really what we're talking about. So obviously we have the rule book, and the rule book's going to go over the basics on how to play a turn and everything. But if you look at the character the character references here, the character references have a ton of information on them. Every character has its own custom set of dice, its own neoprene mat, and its own explanation of each of the icons that that show up on any of its dice. And so while learning the rules itself is relatively simple, I would say you could probably learn it in a good 20-minute, if you set aside a good 20 minutes. The rest of it, that's where the deception is, because the rest of what you need to learn is actually on the character sheet itself, or on the Gearlock Adventuring reference guide, or on the cards, so on and so forth, which makes the game seem simple at first, but then when you dive into these references, you realize where it gets complicated. And these are double-sided, so it's going to show you. It's got a small excerpt right here to talk about who Stanza is, and then it's got some stuff here talking about backup plans. It's got some stuff here talking about details that you should understand about playing this character, a little beginner strat, some things about innate and innate plus, what song effect usage, so on and so forth. And then the front, of course, like I said, is just a big detailed diagram of everything that this character is capable of doing with each of its different types of dice that are available to it. And like I said, each character is going to be different. So where Stanza, may have different uses for their bones when they roll, Duster is going to be, different in that sense as well. And you can see here just how different these mats are. Okay, and then we flip this guy over, and you can see nothing changes here. They're very different because they play differently. And then if we look at the player mats, you can see kind of where I'm coming from here. So this is Stanza. This is Duster, and you can see where its talent arrows are pointing and everything. And then if you look here at Stanza, you can see how it is completely different from the way that Duster is set up. You can also see the base stats, and then if you look at Duster's base stats, they're very different from each other. Duster has two locked sections right here, whereas Stanza only has the one, and so on and so forth. There is actually a ton of content for this game, in the form of extra characters, extra baddies. Like I said, the core set. They have some expansions here in this game that change the way the game is played, and so on and so forth. But the beauty of it is that you don't necessarily need all of it. So this game here, like I said, is a standalone expansion. Again, like I said, you can play it with the core set, or you can mix in stuff from the core set or other expansions into Undertow. But as a standalone, it's a 2-player game, and I think one of the things that is really unique about this game is that while it has a great deal of characters available to it, we're going to go over some dice while I talk about this. While it has a great deal of characters available to it, it also doesn't necessarily have that feel where you want to suddenly, on the second game, switch to another character, because every time you play the character that you played before, you might learn something new or come up with a new plan or strategy that differs from the last time you played it. And what you end up finding is that players want to spend more time getting to know the one character that they played the first time before they actually jump into playing other characters. Despite all of that, there are quite a few characters available in expansions. I believe there's 6 in total available, on top of, expansions that add new bad guys and new tyrants and, so on and so forth. There's even a splicing expansion where it's just about... well, actually, I'm not really 100% sure what it's about. I think what it looked like was that you get to create a tyrant using the Baddies chips and so on and so forth. That way, if you're, for whatever reason, sick of the content that you have available to you, you can kind of create custom content using the splicing expansion. So these are just dice. The ones that I'm showing you right now are Stanzas Dice, and these are custom for her. These ones right here are specifically stat dice, so these ones are going to be put into where the stats are to increase them. So if Stanza has a health stat of 5 plus blank, the plus part is referring to these dice. So if I had this in that slot, it would have Stanza would have 5 plus 3 health for a total of 8. At any given time, you cannot exceed whatever the highest number on these dice are, which is a 6. So at any point in time, Stanza's health can be a maximum of 6, not including a health shield, which you can learn about in Undertow. Like I said, there are rules in there that you can learn as they come up, as opposed to trying to teach the whole game with all of its intricacies right off the bat. So these are going to be the dice that are specifically for Duster, and they're different colors to indicate which character they belong to. And you can see in the Stanza dice, you can see where we have musical notes and stuff that relates to the bard type of thing. We have an axe symbol here because her guitar doubles as an axe, believe it or not. When you look at Duster's dice, we are looking at more along the lines of things like daggers and shurikens and stuff like that, because she carries daggers and a vibra sword and I believe throwing knives. I can't remember exactly, but like I said, you can see how very different they are, which also makes it impossible to mix up which dice are which is fantastic. And they're just beautifully done. Despite the fact that you pay such a huge amount, there are a lot of games out there where you pay a huge price tag and the components themselves will come to you kind of lackluster. This is not the case with this game. So even though you're paying a great deal of money for it, when you get it into your hands and you get a chance to feel it, the game itself actually is incredible. And I compare this to, as far as dice are concerned, I compare this to Quarriors, because when I received Quarriors, there was at least 4 different dice that I could think of off the top of my head that came to me damaged, or the engraved symbols, the paint wasn't fully in it, or so on and so forth, which just was such a a disappointment for how much I paid for the game, you know? So when you get this, it's not as if you're going to immediately feel the sense of buyer's remorse. Of course, if you end up not enjoying the game, that could be one of those unfortunate cases. So this was the player dice that I wanted to go over. I'm going to go ahead and put these guys back. And we're going to look at some of the other dice. And I'm not trying to pitch the game either. It's just an interesting game that I liked, and one of the reasons why I wanted to look at Undertow as opposed to the core set was because it is a great alternative to getting the core set that also gives you the experience of Too Many Bones. So that if you do eventually want to end up upgrading or just finding more of the expansions for it, you can without spending the hefty price tag of $130. Although it can be worth it. Now keep in mind, of course, this game is run off of D6, and so it is heavily dictated by RNG, so a lot of this is luck based. But I think that's where the genius of this game comes in, is because they expect you to roll badly. And because they expect you to roll badly, you can expect that your character is going to have some interesting reactions to rolling badly. Not to mention there are systems set in place that can help you to mitigate bad rolls anyway. So you're not forced into... I guess I won't say that you're not forced into it. You can potentially save your dice for later, I should say, just in case you roll very badly. I'm not even sure which... I think these are the Tyrant Dice. Yeah, I'm almost positive these are the Tyrant Die, because the colors right here. These are specifically the initiative dice for the... different baddies, but some of these look very much like they would belong to the Tyrant. And you can see there is a ton of content here. I mean, and it, again, beautifully worked. Like I said, in this one right here, you can see is indented. I guess you can't really tell from the camera view, but I can assure you that these numbers are actually engraved into the die. And again, when I was looking at something like the Quarrier's dice, some of the paint on these engravings was just straight up missing, making it hard to read the die. These ones, however, are just printed on top, so these are not engraved symbols. I haven't actually done an endurance test on these because I don't want the facings to wipe off. I'm not usually a fan of just printing on the face of a die because it's very easy for it to wear off. But again, that could be yet to be seen, just because, you know, these, again, this is all very high quality. Get these guys back in here, and then we'll go into yet another set of dice, because that's just how many dice this game came with. So much. All right. So the next set of dice are going to be attack and defense dice. You can see right here we have the dice for Stanza and Duster. We also have right here these 4 dice, which I'll pull out of the tray. These are lock-picking dice. Oops, sorry, that's not a lock-picking dice. These are lock-picking dice because you can also receive loot that is in what they call troves, because they call it trove loot, that you have to attempt to open via lockpicking, and these would be the dice that you'd be rolling for it. You do not have to succeed on your first attempt of doing so. Any successes that you roll on your on the various attempts you make will carry over, so that you only have to spend time unlocking the stuff that you didn't succeed at the first time through. The remaining dice are attack dice, so these white and gray dice are all going to look exactly the same, with swords and some crossbones on there, and then some numbers denoting how many hits they are. And it's the same with these little white and yellow dice, which are your defense dice. Again, you're just going to see shields with numbers denoting how many shields you get, and then some crossbones denoting misses. Let's take a look at the chips. As I said, it's a very tactile game. This little chip holder right here, this plastic chip holder, this is specifically something that you can buy separately on chiptheorygames.com in case you want to use it for the core set, because the core set itself did not come with a set of these holders, because they have an insert that holds the chips for you, whereas this box, because it was significantly smaller, did not require necessarily a insert so much as just a chip holder. When you look at these chips, you're going to see two sides to them, and one side is going to depict a baddie or a monster, where it's going to show some health right here, its initiative right here, how much it can attack, how many attack dice it rolls, how many defense dice it rolls, what kind of attacks it does, in this case ranged, what kind of monster it is. I believe this is Goblin. Yeah, Goblin, obviously, because it's a Goblin broadcaster. It's going to tell you right here different abilities. In this case, it only has the one signal. And then right here, it's going to show you its target priority. So what it chooses to attack. In this case, it looks like it attacks anybody. On the back of the chip, you're going to see a baddie point value. So this is 1. There are 1s. There are 3, or I guess there should be 3s. Well, there are 1s. There are 5s. And if you look, the 5s are just... Let's just do a quick comparison. You can see right here, this little goblin guy only has 1 health, whereas this dragon juvenile has 5 health. This guy only rolls 1 attack die and 1 shield die, defense die, whereas this guy rolls 3 attack die and 2 defense dice. And then it shows right here, he targets the strongest character, and the strongest in this game is the one that has the most health. He is ranged, and he is, I don't know, I think that's dragon type, but I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Don't listen to me on that one. It also shows its abilities, Bleed and Careless, versus just the signal. So those are your 5-point baddies. You also have 20-point baddies, and the 20-point baddies are kind of scary. In this particular case, the, does that say abrogator? Abrogator. I guess it's an abrogator, which has 6 health, 5 initiative. It rolls X attack dice. It rolls 2 defense dice. I don't know what that symbol is. It is melee. It attacks the strongest character. And then I also forgot what that symbol does. But needless to say, you can see how they continuously grow and grow to be worse and worse. Somewhere in here, I thought that I had the 3 points. So 3-point baddies, really quickly to go over these guys, are specific to Undertow. Okay, you're not going to see 3-point baddies in the core set. These ones are specific to Undertow because they either represent mech creatures of some sort or underwater characters of some sort, because Undertow takes place on the river in this game. So it is stocked full of extra baddies that are just extra bad. And then we have Tyrant Ships, and the Tyrants are just plain scary difficult, I guess. having not actually had a chance to play this particular game, I couldn't tell you exactly how difficult. But anyway, this guy's got 5 health, 4 initiative, 2 attack dice, 2 shield dice. I do forget what that ability is. He is a mech of some sort because he has the mech symbol right there. Abomination. He's melee only and attacks the strongest character. And there's a whole bunch of these guys in here that you will be able to pick from as you play. And of course, you're only going to be facing one tyrant versus, you know, the numerous amounts of other baddies that you'll be facing throughout the course of this game. The remaining chips are going to be things like the day tracker, because you are on a time limit. So, you know, obviously we have to have our tracker for that. We have our chips representing the characters in this game. So we got our Duster and Duster's Companion, as well as our Stanza. And then we have these chips, which again are specific to Undertow, which represent river-related things. This one, I believe, is broken timbers to your raft, whereas these represent rocks on the ground, because you can either fight on the ground or in the river. So those are the chips, and they are, like I said, substantially heavy. When you receive the game, should you end up picking it up, this is where the heft is. Next up, you are going to find another box with a whole bunch of red chips in it. These red chips are health, okay? This is how you're going to determine how much health each of your baddies and characters have. And to do so, it's pretty simple. Just take one of these little baddies out here. We got this nice little 20-point baddie here, right? So this guy shows that he has 6 health. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 6 of these little red chips. Boom. Oops, dropped one. There you go. 6 red chips. Then you can place them directly under, and this is your baddie, okay? As you deal damage to him, he's going to lose health chips until he inevitably gets to none, at which point he is dead. Okay, so I found that to be quite genius. Not everyone is going to think that's as great as I did, but it's the same thing that goes with your characters as well. I believe Duster's starting health is 3, so you would just simply take 3 chips, place them underneath Duster, and then you would place her on the mat when encounters happen. So that's how the health works, and that is why you have a whole lot of these little red chips. On top of that, you're also going to have these unusually colored chips that have some numbers on them. These chips are used to depict the lanes on the baddie mat, as well as, I believe, help to determine initiative. Of course, I could be wrong. These chips, by the way, the red ones, the health chips, are significantly lighter. They're just not as dense as the other chips. These ones are definitely heavier than these ones right here. So you can hear that sound versus a much thicker sound. Okay, let's move all of this off to the side so we can take a look at the cards. So like I said, plastic tuck boxes, not necessary, but they are. As you jump in, you will also notice that these cards are, in fact, plastic. I am not going to attempt to tear one of these because, you know, I don't want to find out that they're also fragile. But they are indeed plastic. Okay. These cards right here specifically are encounter cards, and these cards, there's obviously some special encounters. We got some tyrant encounters. Beyond the special and tyrant encounters, we have just normal encounters, and this is the base of the game. Throughout the course of each given day, you are going to have a single encounter that generally ends in combat because nobody likes you. In this world, everything wants to eat you. And because you're a Gearlock, which is a tiny, tiny little being, I could only describe them as being halflings with elf ears. Everything wants you as a snack. But these will all give you two choices, and depending on the choice you get, it will generally lead to either a battle or a peaceful resolution. In each of these little circles, you'll see rewards that will happen if you succeed at either of these, and then down at these bottom corners, you'll also see extra rewards. And last but not least, we're going to take a look here at loot. So we got loot, we got trove loot. We got some story cards and stuff like that for the tyrants, but that's not the stuff that I want to show you. The loot that you're going to see in this game is kind of the stuff that, besides your trainer dice, as you're slowly but surely leveling up, is also going to be the stuff that helps you to fight the tyrant as you get closer and closer to being able to do so. So this stuff is representing equipment and other stuff that you picked up throughout the course of your journey to find the tyrant that's going to help strengthen you or give you some sort of boost of some sort to help you to defeat the tyrant. And there is tons and tons of it, and like I said before, it is all plastic. That's right, plastic. Like I said, if the apocalypse happens, this game will surely survive. Some alien race will, while excavating, find these buried somewhere and surely have a misunderstanding of what our race was all about. So anyway, that is essentially Too Many Bones, Undertow. If you want something that is absolutely over the top with its components and the value that you can get from these components, and you want something that is just absolutely a tactile masterpiece, then you have definitely found the right game. It is also deceptively, like I said, easy to teach because the part of the game that makes it go forward is relatively simple, and the intricacies of the game generally lie with the characters that are available with the game. And yes, these little baddie chips can definitely be complicated, but not to the same degree as your little Gearlock here, as he slowly but surely starts adding dice to his mat and opening up more and more possibilities. If you have any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear from you, especially on what you think about the game, or any opinions you have as well. Also, I appreciate anybody who would take the time to like and subscribe if you liked the video. I try to do this content regularly, but it does require free time, so anybody who wants to take the time to support me, even just by hitting that like button, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Also, I do have a Patreon available. You can find it under Uncommon Ramen. If you feel the need to support me in that sense, it will help me to free up more time to bring more of this wonderful content. And I believe that's it, folks. Until next time. Peace.